Hey everybody, today we're talking about common tone fully diminished seventh chords, and I've prepared some slides to help introduce this concept to you. So take a look here. We're going to start this slideshow. Common tone fully diminished seventh. The symbol is uppercase CT little circle 7. Here are the things you want to know about the common tone fully diminished 7. First of all, it is another use of the fully diminished seventh chord. At least one note of it becomes a common tone with the chords surrounding it, and that's where it gets its name from, common tone diminished 7. Unlike the other uses of the fully diminished seventh chord, which is tonally functional, it often happens as a dominant function. The common tone fully diminished seventh chord simply is embellishing, and it embellishes the function of whatever chord that is surrounding it. And because of this embellishing function, the spelling is totally flexible. So we need to be prepared to encounter it in various spellings in musical contexts and scores. But the really good news is that when you need to spell it, you can spell it however you like. All right, so now that we know about that, the basic features, I want to show you what a common tone fully diminished seventh might look like in a context. So this slide shows an example in F major. You'll notice that the F major chord surrounds the common tone fully diminished seventh, and I have doubled it appropriately, 2 roots, a third, and a fifth, sounding like this. And so what that middle chord is going to do is form a fully diminished seventh chord that keeps the common tone in the bass, and it sounds like this. Just embellishing that tonic function. So when we look at this example, here's what we know. One of the notes is a common tone. That's how we get the common tone fully diminished seventh. And then 2 of the parts are moving by step downward and then back upward to the notes they are embellishing. And then finally that tenor voice there is moving by third. Let's take a look at an example in a minor key, or at least embellishing a minor triad. So for this one, you will also notice the same sort of principles, except for this one, we have 2 common tones since there's a minor third in that tonic chord. So let's take a look at this example. There's our minor tonic triad. And here we're keeping E as a common tone and G as a common tone. And you'll notice that one of the parts still moves by step and the other part does have to move by third to fill out the fully diminished seventh chord. So with these examples in mind, I'd like to actually take a look at a short excerpt of music that also uses the common tone fully diminished seventh chord. And here's how I'd like to work through this analysis. I really like this passage a lot. This is a beautiful nocturne by Chopin. You'll be analyzing the rest of the first page of this piece, at least, for homework after you watch this video. But let's get started on this analysis together. I'm going to play the excerpt for you. While you are listening, I want you to do 3 things. A, identify the key that we're in. B, identify all uses of the tonic chord. There's a lot of tonic in here, and we can knock those out. And then the third thing I want you to do is to listen for a fully diminished seventh chord. And there's only one in this passage, and it happens to be the common tone fully diminished 7. Let's see if you can find it. Here's the example. Okay, so what key is this in? Hopefully you came up with A flat major. Now, let's see if we can knock out all the tonic chords. How many did you find? I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tonic chords. We're already done with half of the analysis. That's awesome. All right, so the million-dollar question here is, where is that common tone fully diminished seventh chord? There's only one diminished 7 in this piece, and guess where it happens? It happens here. There it is. Notice that the common tone is the A flat, and that is both in the bass voice and in one of the inner parts as well. Okay, now that we took care of that important business, let's see if we can work through the rest of this analysis together. So let's go back to measure 1. And we want to account for those 2 missing chords. Well, the first one is just a plain old 4 chord. But then what happens to that 4 chord? It becomes borrowed 4. So what we have here is an opening progression that really just has plagal motion, 1, big 4, borrowed 4 to 1, and I'm analyzing that B flat as a passing tone. Okay, let's look at the end of measure 3. There's an interesting chord there, and it's a little tricky because it has a non-chord tone in it. This one is a 5/7, but the tricky part is that we have a pedal non-chord tone in the bass voice. But in the context, it makes sense because look what's surrounding it, all those A flats, and that's that same A flat that was the common tone in the fully diminished 7 embellishing tonic. And so we can kind of see this 5/7 with the pedal non-chord tone having a similar function to that common tone fully diminished 7. The last chord I want to look at is the second chord of the last measure, and this is one of our new friends. This is an extended tertian chord. Can you identify it? There it is. It's the 5/13. We've got so in the bass, and we've got mi in the soprano, and the mi goes through re to do as we would expect it to. Let's listen to this beautiful passage again. So those are the slides on the fully diminished, common tone, fully diminished 7th chord, seeing how they are used in both major and minor keys as embellishing chords, and then seeing how it works in a short example by Chopin. Now you get to analyze the rest of that first page and see what you can find.